So this is a custom home that I finished up recently in the Gainesville, Florida area. And this style of house is pretty unique for this area. My client found this plan online and purchased it from an architect that was based out of Oregon. And this plan really does fit, the look that you see more, from the Pacific Northwest. So it's really a unique style for Florida. But this house is coming in just under 4,000 square feet, heated and cooled. And, one of the really unique things about this particular plan are these timber trusses that are, shown on the plan. So, unlike normal trusses that we use in Florida, which are, made in a truss manufacturing facility and shipped to the job site and dropped off and then set all in one day, these trusses, we had to order over 100 special order beams, the engineer spec appearance grade glue lambs, and the trusses had to be built on site, all pieced together per this engineering, which, was definitely more complicated. It took several weeks to build these trusses and set them. But, obviously, contributed to this awesome look that we had. And, they were finished on site. We stained them. And then we wound up running tongue and groove in between them to give this really organic, lodge style feel that my client was going for. And so, overall, this house took about a year to build with the size of it and especially the height of everything. It really made everything take a lot longer than normal. Whenever we, laid the fireplace stone, whenever we did all this, high work on the trusses of staining them and finishing them and the tongue and groove, all that had to be done off of lifts. So, when you got lifts in the house and the workers having to work off of lifts, it just, adds a lot of time you don't normally have on your typical houses. But with that being said, the height of this house, the tall ceilings and the high roof and the high roof pitch, it adds, contributes to a very dramatic look. And, even outside these timber frame trusses, there's a lot of unique things about this house. I mean, one of those things being that half the wall and ceiling finish in the house is tongue and groove cypress, which you don't really see that much wood being used in most homes, which contributes to a really warm feel in the house. And then the stairs and railings in this house are also really unique. So we went with exposed steel stair stringers and balcony railings throughout the house, which really, contribute to the look and feel. It's kind of an industrial rustic feel, and it's really was very important for my client. And then when we use the appearance grade glue lambs for stair treads that we use for the timber trusses, it kind of ties it all together. And, because of the weight of this steel, this is really heavy duty steel, because of the length of some of these runs, the straight stair treads and the long balcony runs, we actually decided to weld all of this on site and in place rather than manufacturing it off site and transporting it. And it made a lot more sense to weld in place. So all of this really was done very organically. The same way that it would have been done, back in the day, if this were an old barn that were being built. And so my client really loved that. It was cool seeing the progress on site, while this stuff was being welded. And it took about a month or so to complete the staircase and railing from start to finish. And some of the other cool things that were in this house, these really tall sliding glass doors and matching windows above on both ends of the house, 9 foot tall, 5 foot wide panels that let in a ton of natural light. And then we have this 30-foot tall wood-burning fireplace, that took, several weeks to complete because of the height of it. And then in the kitchen, we have all alder cabinets. My client wants something really rustic, and alder, absolutely contributes to that look. It's very rustic, and there's a lot of knots in the wood. And, my homeowner, continuing with that warm feel through the house, he went with a darker stain and, was really happy with the way the cabinets turned out as well. We used Bridgewood cabinets, which are custom made. So these are all custom sized. And, we went with barn doors throughout the house in a lot of different areas, a lot of the bedrooms, which, again, contributed to the look and feel. And, we're just really happy with the way the house turned out. It was a really fun house to build. The style was different than most houses. And, I hope to build more houses like this in the future.